Welcome back to AHP Profits. Charles Scoville here. I am so excited to have you back inside of your members area, and there has just been so much going on here. What I want to do is, in a nutshell, tell you what had happened and then tell you how we resolved it. As you know, over $60 million was shared with all members. These were $60 million of fraudulent payments, okay? There were about 4 different payments actually totaling about $67.5 million that came through Solid Trust Pay, which ended up actually being fraudulent, which were then reversed, but the funds were still on the members' accounts within AHP Profits. So what we needed to do is find a way to remove those earnings. And it wasn't just as simple as removing everybody's earnings, and I've detailed why that wouldn't work, it wouldn't be effective on another video. And just to tell you real short that some shares might have earned $50.12, or another share $47.15. You know what I'm trying to say? Is there are different amounts that were on people's shares, and if they had the amount that was shared from the 60 million, it maxed them out. So if we were to remove like $17.11 from the $56.25, then it would have become an amount less than this, and that would have actually created some negative balances, which we bumped into. And so what we found is that we didn't know what that amount was before the event, before this incident of receiving such high amounts of money through our system from this hacker. So that's what had taken some time for us to come back, is coming up with all these different strategies. And what it basically came down to is realizing what we knew and what we didn't know. And we only didn't know one thing. We did know how much commissions you had earned. We did know how much you cashed out. And we did know how much you spent using your balance. Okay, so these are the 3 things that we absolutely knew without a shadow of a doubt. We just didn't know what your share earnings were. So what we did is we took the amount of your cash outs and the amount that you spent on your balances and recognized that those were earnings from your account. They had to have been, right? And then these commissions, though, we didn't want to have those included in these earnings because we only want to have straight share earnings. Okay, so for example, if you had $9 in commissions and cashed out, let's say $40, and you spent $180 on shares. Okay. So pulling up the calculator here, what that means here is $180 divided by 45. That's 4 shares, and then you would at least had one, so let's say you had 5 shares. Okay? So what we knew is how much you had on your account approximately to cash out and make purchases. Now, of course, we assume that there was also an amount more, and I'll get to that here in just a second. So there's this amount, of course, the cashing out would be negative because it was cashing out from your account, removing $40, and then spending from your account would have been spending $180, a negative amount there as well. So what we did is we took the 9 minus the 40 minus the 180, and so that's $211 that we said, okay, that's an amount that we're going to be dispersing to your 5 shares. So we said, okay, so now that your balance is this negative $211 amount, what we needed to do is add $211 into your shares. You have 5 of them. So here's how we divide that through, is we said, okay, we know that the maximum amount is $56.25 on each share. And so we divided that amount by the $56.25. And so that comes to $3, or yes, 3 1/4 share. So what that means is that on your account, you now have 56.25 on 3 shares. And then this decimal amount times 56.25, $42.25 on this one, 42.25. And then on this last one, you would have had 0. Okay, so stay with me because this isn't the end of what we had done. So adding that together, so you can see the 56 times 25 times the 3 plus 42.25, that's where you're getting the 211. So it was completely balanced out at 0 from the earnings and the shares that you had already cashed out on your account. Okay, so then what we did is, knowing that from payments that came in through the processors that we shared and dispersed that amount with everyone, we knew that all we needed to do next is go into the processors, add up together what's all in the processors together, and then divide that evenly through all of the shares. And so that's where you're going to see an additional $1 something cents here. Okay. And so that's what is right now making up your balance. Okay, so that's what you're looking at right now in your balance. Now we recognize that we shared with everybody in this case. There were some people, though, that might have clicked and they didn't qualify certain days. Maybe they qualified some days but then didn't, or maybe they signed up later than someone else. Regardless, we just shared evenly with everybody, completely evenly across the board. And so some people's balances might be a little bit higher, might be a little bit lower. Now, one of the things that you might have noticed is that we just shared all the way until the shares were full and then went to the next. So there's going to be some people who are going to recognize that they have fewer shares open, but we actually filled up those shares completely from the income that you had already earned. So there's no loss to your income potential there, because all of that will just be made up from these additional shares that you have open. And by doing it this way, we actually help maximize the amount of money that you receive on your shares individually. Because if we just divvied out an even amount per share, then there would have been a whole lot of empty shares on everybody's account, and almost nobody would have any full shares unless somebody reached their max and then stopped. You know what I'm saying? If anyone had ever purchased any shares and had any open, then all of their shares would be left open, and that would have there would just been just a mind-boggling large amount of open shares, and that would have made us way too slow. So this particular strategy will help ensure that as the revenues are coming into the system, more is shared with each individual share. And I hope this all makes sense. That each share was then filled up one right after another, and then just stopped at a partial filling on that last one. So I hope that all makes sense. I want to thank you for your patience. I know that there's been a lot of time here. I mean, basically, like I've said in different webinars and different recordings and throughout the forums and groups, that basically what had happened here is that we had an atomic bomb dropped on AHP profits. $67.5 million. If you looked at the screenshot, there was $60 million. There was a lot cashed out. Luckily, we've been able to get it all back. That's one of the things I've been really grateful about. Finally, we've been able to get all of that back. Everything's put back in the perfect order, perfect and proper frame. It's just that some of these earnings might just be a little bit different, mainly because the averages were applied across the board. So the average across the board might have been a little bit higher, it might have been a little bit lower, but your earning potential has remained exactly the same. Okay? So I'm really sorry for any inconveniences. We're recovering from this the best that we can, and we're moving forward. And some great news is coming up next week. We're going to be having a call center. So there's going to be a toll-free 888 number on our website for contacting support, and we'll have the support tickets the same as we have now, Facebook, and also Skype. So lots of really great ways to get a hold of support, get your answers to any questions that you have. And again, thanks for being at Hit Profits. Thanks for being here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Happy earnings, happy clicking, and happy referring. And hopefully you can refer in some really good advertisers and make lots and lots of money in those commissions every single day. Take care now.